You get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Yeah.
This continues to be a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Joe Biden, double masked, quadruple vaxxed, COVID positive.
You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
But don't worry, he's taking Paxlovid, the same drug that Anthony Fauci took after he caught COVID, after being quadruple vaxxed, and then caught COVID again 2 weeks later. 100% safe and effective.
They're safe and they're highly effective.
Meanwhile, here in the UK, we're subjected to the same old
All right. Welcome to a skeleton crew edition of News from the Pew. I am half of the dynamic duo tonight, and I am joined by Mr. Stephen Cunningham of Census Fidelia and censusfidelia.tv. I am Rick Barrett, the Armed Catholic, thearmedcatholic.com, your source for all things Catholic and guns. So check that out as well. We are not joined by any of our normal panelists because it's Friday night. And
they got better things to do.
They have things to do. But big shout out to our boys. We'll see them next week. It'll be fine. So I have actually been gone off the radar for 2 days. I was at a firearms training seminar Thursday and Friday. So I came back and I was like, Steve, what happened? Because the last time I checked, there were some things going on. As soon as I left, Joey B got the COVID after getting every jab in the world, which means that they all got saline. A, they all got saline shots, and B, they're probably trying to get him sick now so they can kick him out eventually. I don't know. I mean, we might see. Are we saying shades of Sri Lanka here, Steve, where they're setting up the old guy to get booted out just to replace him with a younger, a little bit more coherent version?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember seeing the Sri Lanka videos. They just replaced the old guard with a guy with the WEF. He literally posted on Twitter that 2025. I showed it on Clown Planet. I don't know if I showed it on here. I can't remember. But he showed the 2025 WEF link. He shared it around. We are hosed beyond hosed. I don't know if anybody's – now, we're going to fight. There's having a protest this weekend. I'll share that link at the end. Pretty much all of Europe and quite a few countries, Albania as well. U.S. Nobody's really doing much in the USS of A. I think we got everyone's ready for fantasy football. So, the Major League Draft was this week, so that's another thing no one cared about.
We got a midterm. We got a midterm, buddy. We got that red wave coming.
So I guess it got to get really bad here, which give it a few more years. Honolulu. We'll get to that later. I'll pull that one up. That's just a piece about what's happening in Germany right now. Already happened in the good old USS of A. Just wait. Just wait. It's good. You laugh, not to cry. But yeah, I'm glad you were away for it a while because it got ugly for a little bit this week.
Yeah, it definitely was not. And it's not a shock that in the lull of the summer, end of July, pretty much throughout August, you're seeing a lot of things that would incense more people happening. Because no matter what, no matter how into politics you are, this time of year is just dead. It's just the summer doldrums. Everybody's off. Everybody's burnt out. They need to rest. They need to reset. Not like great reset, but reset. And so we're having this discussion about electric cars. We're having Pete Buttigieg be brought around to answer the questions about high gas prices and why they continue to push the agenda and why can't we do anything to stop that right now. And as you can see, Sri Lanka's new president, very, very proud member of the WEF, almost seems like a setup. We were all going, yay, look at the Sri Lankans. The Sri Lankans are fighting back and they're throwing up the trash and they're going to, oh no, they're just speeding up the process. They just put that sucker into warp speed. That's all they did. And I guess as long as they think they can keep us sedated with red versus blue politics, and everybody's focused on Joey B and Kamala and Pete and all these other things, then they don't really have to worry about us because we are pacified. Like you said, it's baseball season. Starting a football season soon. A lot of people getting excited for that.
Mm-hmm. Hey, look at what it says. QR code for digital ID program to access gas.
That's excellent.
Hey, we think about it now going, I mean, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. I was driving back and Love's a trucker group. They have pay through the QR code. Scan this, you can pay through the app. Everyone's getting you used to it. You have to pay through the app. If you don't have your score, your social credit score up to a level at once, guess what you're not going to be getting or doing? Or like hallelujah, I said.
I know Mike Church, he has his own cigar line. He got contacted at the beginning of this week by the cigar company, and he said, "Yeah, we can't do payments over the internet anymore. We got booted off because we're unacceptable as tobacco. Now you could pay for an abortion through this company, you could pay for pornography through this company, but if you want to buy cigars, you can't do that. So now Mike has to go to the actual store with cash to buy it, and it's just a very slow and steady march." To re-socialize. One of the ways they want to do, they want to socially engineer us away from, I guess, the traits of toxic masculinity, eating meat, smoking cigars, drinking booze, all the fun stuff.
I'm glad you said that because Jordan Peterson brought that up a couple months ago, maybe a year ago now.
And old Jordan.
How it gets to the point where
things get to terrible places one tiny step at a time. You know, if I encroach on you and I'm sophisticated about it, I'm going to encroach 2 millimeters. I'm going to encroach right to the point where you start to protest. Then I'm going to stop. Then I'm going to wait. Then you're going to calm down. Then I'm going to encroach again right to the point where you protest. Then I'm going to stop. Then I'm going to wait. And I'm just going to do that forever. And before you know it, you're going to be back 3 miles from where you started, and you'll have done it one step at a time. And then you'll go, oh, how'd I get here? And the answer was, well, I pushed you a little farther than you should have gone, and you agreed. And so then I pushed you a little farther than you should have gone again, and you agreed. And if anybody's interested...
He's dead on right. I mean, you see that right now, all these protests going around the world. And what's going on? The same thing's being replayed. LA is going under the Muslim mandate. And they know that's a place that had 96% compliance rate. Anybody with 2 working brain cells should be able to know that isn't doing anything, but they're going to do it, and you're going to muzzle up. And if you want that job, you're going to take the jab and get muzzled up because you're not going to be on probably about 2 to 3 years. You're going to start worrying about food. And I personally think within the next year, you're going to see energy problems like they're having in Germany when they said they're cutting off their winter access, their heat this winter in Germany. And they already told the cities, start building these warm zones. And wear extra clothing. Told the people wear extra layers of clothes because they're cutting off your. I'll go right into hallelujah. What are we talking about? This is happening right now. Where's the stream? Hallelujah. High rises guzzle electricity. A new law is aimed at changing that. Let's see what they have to say.
Waste. This afternoon, Mayor Rick Blangiardi signed Bill 22 into law.
It is known as the Better Buildings Benchmarking Program, and it's meant to make high-rises
almost like Build Back Better
more accountable for their energy consumption.
The fact of the matter is, we don't have options anymore. Our fight against climate change issues, rising costs, affordability, all of these are very real.
Now, Hawaii should be underwater for this. If they were right, Hawaii should be underwater. He should not be there right now.
Right. And the fact that it's an island. Everything's expensive already.
Yeah, I love those memes that are out there saying, hey, here's 100 years ago with the Statue of Liberty, and here it is today. And it hasn't moved an inch.
My favorite one is Plymouth Rock.
Plymouth Rock, yes.
You're like, hey, Plymouth Rock in 1630. Plymouth Rock today.
Hasn't moved.
We're excited about being able to take this kind of initiative, get the effort made we needed to have, at the right time.
Starting next year, buildings larger than 100,000 square feet will need to track and report their consumption of energy, water, and gas. A simple
Do we have to play that again, right? That part right there?
We need to
I think you might have to.
Starting next year,
Because this is a
buildings
test
larger
case
than
right here.
100,000 square feet will need to track and report their consumption of energy,
Track and report.
water, and gas.
Electronically, most likely.
But the hope is that documenting the use will promote efforts to reduce costs and find clean alternatives.
Here's the thing, too, Steve. What they'll do is they will. You'll see it, and I'm sure some of you guys are thinking exactly what I'm about to say. Smart meters.
Yep.
Smart meters on the electric grid. They're
Yep.
smart grid for electric, so you don't even have a choice. You can't lie. They'll be like, oh, well, we track this much energy, this much water, and it starts with tracking. And Steve knows what comes next. It goes from tracking to making sure quotas are filled. You are only allotted 1,000 kilowatt hours of energy a month, as an example. Oh, you're over it. Sorry. Good night. You're done.
You might be able to buy some extra if you're a good little citizen, but
Or maybe if you put on some solar panels, it'll give you a credit or something like that. Some kind of nonsense.
hey, we'll give you 10 credit points if you eat some of these grasshoppers.
That's right. That's right. Your diet will give you credit to access the grid.
Yeah.
Guys, you think it's nuts when we talk about this stuff, but that's how we're all being trained.
People focus on what's measured and what they can see, and that they can set goals for themselves. We know that just this simple act of measuring can help you manage some of these.
What was that? The Office of Climate Change Sustainability, Agenda 2030.
Yep.
And this bill will have many impacts for different stakeholders across the island, whether it's building
Stakeholders. They love that word.
And what's her face? She just died a couple months ago. She wrote the book Agenda 2030 that you can look at. She mentions this point. You can go to any city and look in the sustainability group in that city. You have this. It's in everybody who's listening to this has that in their town right now. Only a few was able to fight it. I remember she talked about I think it was Simpsonville, South Carolina was one of them, and there was another one. So you can fight it, but do we have the will for this? I don't know.
Steve, most people didn't even know it's there. Still, they don't know it's there.
I think that's great. That's a perfect point. Not only that, but they are okay with it. They want the smart meter. They want to sit back and tell their TV, hey, come on, turn on channel 46. I'm so lazy. I can't pick up the TV remote to turn. I got to speak so that the house is under my control. I walk in and the temperature goes down to 72. I say, turn the lights off and the lights go off. They're building their own prisons. You can't beat that stuff. When you get digital currency, you can't do anything else. They know what you bought, when you bought it, how you bought it. They know what you wore, when you did. They're talking about how right now you can even tell when there's other people in the house because of the water usage. They monitor the toilet flushes. They monitor this.
I mean, Facebook already knows when you go to the bathroom.
Yeah, General Petraeus even talked about how your washing dishwasher was spying on you. And everyone's got their little fondle slabs tracking every movement, what you're looking at, what you're doing. You're on Google, you're on Twitter. They're looking at everything you post, what you're looking at, what you're for, and they know who's not on their side.
Yep. They know who's going to be compliant and who's not.
Yeah.
And save on cost.
The city has already implemented this monitoring program at more than 70 of its own facilities and is aiming to install efficient measures estimated to save $3.5 million in yearly utility costs. And the hope is today's bill will also help the state reach the goal of net zero emissions by 2045.
Net zero means you're dead.
Net zero means you're the zero they want to eliminate.
Electricity. But in the future, we need to start talking about all the sources of carbon emissions, including transportation. And that's another effort we have ongoing, and buildings can have a big part in that as well.
An effective response to climate change is going to require all of us to make changes, from incremental changes in our daily lives.
Remember, they won't be doing the changes. You and I, we will be doing those changes.
Yep. And how we get places, to much bigger changes in our communities in terms of how we power them and really design them.
For more information on the rollout of this program, visit resilientoahu.org.
I got resilient for you.
Yeah,
it's coming whether you like it or not. I mean, we'd like to say there's a the opposite solution is, like I said, bringing back the holy face idea of you're going to be ran, as the Revelation said, you're going to be controlled by revolutionary men. We are seeing revolutionary men in the episcopacy, in state and church. Let's just say state and church. You're seeing it everywhere. There's no place right now that doesn't have revolutionary men in, and we are going to be enslaved by this unit if we don't do something quick. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, we just got to get uppity on this. Not just saying uppity like turn things apart. Uppity in the sense of, no, we know what to do. We got to do it. Yeah. Somebody sent me a video. I told him back because what video I'm not going to watch? Why is that? I go, send me a water is wet. What are we going to do about it? Give me some solutions. We're giving here, do it. Learn the faith and get in love with it so much that you want to die for it. Now, obviously, your body doesn't care. If they take away your electricity, you can still go to heaven. Yeah. But look at your kid.
One could argue that losing electricity and comforts of life may actually help you in that cause.
Yeah, suffering. Yeah, look at that. I was, reading Simon Stylus, the guy who gets on a platform that's 6 feet up in the air and just stands on this platform for days on end for years and in the heat and all this. So he ate a little bit. Yeah, okay. And then the whole bugs thing. People telling me, oh, John the Baptist ate bugs. Yes, he did. He was also John the Baptist. As Garner J writes about it, says he took the place of Lucifer in heaven. Now, would we like to do that? Now, we know Christ ate bread. I don't know if he ate any bugs. I don't know if the apostles wrote. I don't know if Francis Xavier did. None of
them ate GMO bugs.
Did any GMO food?
Be real about that.
Yeah, there's no GMO food. They drank good water, ate good food, and they walked everywhere. Not saying, okay, get away from cars, but you're going to have to start planning for the future on this, getting closer to a parish, so you don't have to worry about taking transportation to that parish because you're not going to be allowed to do it. I know that's crazy to think of, but they're cutting. What you want to play? Want us to play Booty Jack?
Yeah, let's do that one. That's a perfect segue to it, because the gasoline thing is not going away. I know people are hoping, and like gas is down. I know Pete actually put gas is down 50 cents because nobody's driving, you dingus. You can't. They don't have the money to do it, so people are scaling back. So as demand drops, then the price drops because of it. That if the demand isn't there, it can't stay at $5 a gallon because it's not operable. The same amount doesn't have that much demand for it. So at one hand, it's funny. On the one hand, he's like, yeah, high gas prices are great because it means you have to get an electric car. On the other hand, he's like, yay, gas is down 30 cents. Which one? Which one is it, buddy? Which one do you want?
Yeah. That was what Ducey was talking about. Hey, what was the whole point of going over to Saudi Arabia? He didn't do anything. It's he
wasted more gas doing it.
Yeah. There was video of him with the 3 big SUVs. Here comes Mr. Gas Guzzler and Chief. It's okay when they do it.
He did it to go up to Massachusetts. He landed in Rhode Island, and then the entourage, it's like 4 SUVs in the front, 4 SUVs in the back, and his, to go to this plant to talk about how they're going to save the planet with, changing emissions and turning everything into unicorn farts.
I was waiting for that one.
They see the downside of for example, if the president declares a climate emergency, executive order, we are going to stop oil and gas drilling in the out.
And they're right off there. Right, this week he was supposed to do his executive order.
Yep, the climate emergency.
Wednesday, and then it got delayed till Friday, and then he didn't do it, and he just came out and said, I'll do it next week, basically. So it's coming next week. So just right there, we have an imperial presidency. Now, Trump did it. If you're a conservative, you were pretty much totally fine with that when he did it. Now, you weren't cool when Obama did it. You weren't cool when Clinton did it. And nobody was cool when everyone else prior to do it if you were not on that team. So the EO, executive orders, basically we have an elected king now. There's no power for them to do this. Now he can call an emergency. Rick, what other emergency did you hear of in the last couple of years?
One that's, as I call it, the MTV 22, the midterm variant, starting to raise its ugly head and starting to bang the war drums.
And he signed he renewed the Emergency Act on the Rona last week. And they renewed 9/11. every year. Trump did it too. Now we give Trump credit when he did when he got the SCOTUS people in. It doesn't matter what team you're on. They're on that team, and you're not, and they're going to rule against us just like the WEF. Who elected Schwab? We got video on that coming up soon. Unelected, but they're going to tell us how to live, and in pretty much what you live in right now is not what you're going to have in 4 or 5 years.
Outer continental shelf. We're going to do all kinds of things that will limit production of hydrocarbons at this time, with the idea that by 2030 everyone else is going to be along with us, and that will somehow. You think we're going to be able to change the weather or the climate between now and 2030 with what China?
Well, we've changed the climate.
I remember you ever seen George Carlin's bit on that? I know they play it about the. We won't play it because there's some wordy nerds in there. Yeah, we talk about the height of arrogance to think we could change the climate.
Yeah, and I love how Pete cites the fact that it's really hot in July.
Yes,
it's really hot lately, dude. It's been 100 degrees for 7 days straight here in Texas. It's called weather. Okay, it happens, and they're going to use this climate emergency to skirt around Congress, where the SCOTUS, SCOTUS, red versus blue, the SCOTUS said that the EPA couldn't do the climate change stuff. So they're going to use the climate emergency to do the Defense Authorization Act or whatever it is, the same thing Trump did to make the ventilators, to skirt around Congress, to skirt around the EPA and directly impose this climate agenda on private business. So it's like, yeah, the EPA can't do it. Guess what? We've given them enough power that they're just going to skirt around it and do it another way.
Yep. The green agenda, the watermelon agenda, green on the outside, commie red on the end.
Right.
People were talking.
Picture. I love it.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them. I've seen Ireland, United Kingdom, and now Germany. And if you notice, the top part this is both Germany. 2017 is up top. It's just regular green, 34 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Celsius. Down here, it's cooler, but red.
But it's red, Steve. It's red.
It's burning red, hellfire right there.
There are runways melting in Britain. Did you not know that? Which was the funniest thing in the world when I heard that day. We've shut down this airport because the runway. Would you make it out of Play-Doh? Like, what are you doing here, man? How'd you win World War II with that? How did this is the RAF, man? You guys were taking off in the jungles of Guadalcanal.
The spontaneous combustion of the trees.
It's right. It's just incredible how people can just be warped. Oh, Rich, they don't have air conditioning in Europe. Well, that's their bloody fault. They can go buy a window unit. Okay? It's not my fault that you guys don't believe in air conditioning. I was from Rhode Island. Even when it was 85 degrees with humidity in Rhode Island, I was working that air conditioning. Don't tell me it's because of the temperatures. You want to be green? That's fine. Guess what? You're going to be thinner than that because you just sweat it out.
Hey, Paul Joseph called it out up here.
Well, I guess we've all been sat down. I guess the climate change alarmists were actually correct. The UK has recorded its hottest temperature ever, with the thermometer hitting 39.1 degrees Celsius in Charlwood, Surrey. Got to hold my hands up and take the L here. I was wrong. You were right. Guess that's it. Channel's dead. Lefties were vindicated. Hold up. Where's Charlwood? Oh, it's right next to Gatwick Airport. It basically is Gatwick Airport. All the industrial complexes, airport runways, hot tarmac, jet engines. Totally the fairest place to record a temperature reading. What's next? UK's hottest temperature beaten again. Thermometer meeting taken inside iron smelting factory. They're going to stop historical wind speeds from inside wind tunnels. Wait, an even hotter temperature was recorded, broken 40 Celsius for the first time ever. Where was that reading taken?
The UK record temperature that has been set this afternoon at Heathrow Airport.
and I never thought about it till then. Was I remember back in growing up in Greenville, Spartanburg, the local news would always say, "Now here's the temperature coming in from Greenville, Spartanburg Airport." It's always at the airport. You look at all the radars; it's at the airport, so it's going to be hot at the airport. You probably go, man. Everything else, the thermometer outside says 5, 6, 10 degrees cooler. It's at the airport.
And airports are located usually in the middle of cities.
The game's rigged.
Since they are asphalt jungles with no place for the sun to go, and it doesn't go into the ground to cool. It goes straight into concrete, straight into tar, straight into that stuff. It just sits there and pushes back up. It doesn't naturally get pushed around. There's no trees to block it on the. So it's like, what a shock that the airport has the highest temperature. You got me there, bud.
And the whole climate change. And if we live in the South, we live in what? A southern climate that has not changed. We have not turned into a desert in North Carolina or South Carolina. Florida is still tropical. It's not turned into the West. Weather is not climate. It's just because you have a hurricane doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. And the whole thing about the drought in the West Coast, that's because everybody was stupid enough to try and spread all the water from one river. All right. All the water from the Colorado, and all that water is getting diverted to cities. It's not getting diverted to the countryside.
What happened with you?
In California? California is taking the water from the north and driving it down south. And what about the water in the south? Y'all see those huge channels that they film all the movies in where it's always, guess what? They flood all their rainwater straight to the ocean to save like the Guadalupe Bee or whatever it is. And then they're like, oh, we don't have any rainwater. Yeah, because you funnel it all out.
Hugo, they said that was the biggest climate change right there. Could all these people? Well, they ended up, the U.S. Department of, I can't remember, put up the levees and then told people to live below water.
Oh, yeah.
And then when they broke, which they were planning, they knew that would probably happen one day, the place got flooded. Oh, look at climate change. You screwed with what? You screwed with Mother Nature. Right there, just that part. They flood all the time because of the area right there. When they flood, you get better ground to grow in.
Oh, it's great. That's why that land was so fertile. Because and I mean, look at the Nile in Egypt. There was a reason why it's green on the Nile and then it's desert around of it, because it would flood out and it would actually be fertile land. But no, we got to make sure that we can put some condos there, Steve. So
you were being played.
Yeah, 100%.
But we've changed the climate between 2010 and now, and not in a good way. So yes, we can and must act to make sure that we reverse the worst effects of climate change. Look, some of it's upon us right now. This is not a question about whether it's going to happen or whether it's not going to happen. It's a question of
they're going to keep rising.
It's a question of how many lives and how many livelihoods are going to be destroyed by allowing the worst effects of climate change to happen.
Right now, people are
I've never known the United States. I've never known the United States
for something that may or may not happen by 2030.
I'm just glad he challenged them on this.
I think it's just frustration because you can only sit there for so long. And the worst effect of climate, that's such an open-ended, magical phrase.
Yes.
Because there's no benchmark. I think we talked about this last week. There's no benchmark for it. There's no way you can actually say, hey, we've achieved. Oh, well, we had to drop it by 0.1 degree. Sorry, no. The model was wrong. It's 0.0001 degree. So we actually have to make this more strict. And I think people, and it looks like this guy's getting frustrated, like maybe as an elderly grandmother that's now got to sit in a hot house because she can't get enough electricity, or they're telling her she's got to shut off her air conditioning between 2 and 7 because it's the hottest part of the day, like here in Texas. You got to conserve energy. Well, if you're an elderly person, that's the hottest part of the day. You're going to want that air conditioning then. You don't need it at 9 o'clock at night. But yet, I'm sure it's just frustration from Pete Buttigieg sits in an air-conditioned car, lives in an air-conditioned house, works at an air-conditioned building. He does not care about this, but he's using it, as Steve said, to control you, me, and the means of production so they can live, these fake elites can live a better life.
And that's the thing. They talked about Michigan having troubles with the grid. They were going to cut that off up there. They were going to change, just like in Germany. So I don't know where his parents could be. It could be that case. But if they're in Michigan or not, hey, people from Michigan, let us know. Are you experiencing that? I mean, that's what they're saying is what was going to happen. States all over the union were to experience problems with the electrical grid, all because of stuff like this. Now, I mean, I'm trying to find. I have it on my phone right now. I wonder if I have it on the computer. I'll find it in the next second that ties this with what happened the last.
I've talked about it time and time again while you're looking for it. The reason why Texas has to actually do the conservation between 2 and 8 is because of 10% of our grid is windmills, unreliable. The air doesn't blow in Texas in the summer. It doesn't. It's hot down here. And yet, Steve, if you can put this up, I sent it to you in the private chat. This was today. But the reason why is because we're not taking the fuel out of the ground, either natural gas or petroleum. We're sitting there and we're hoping these things. This thing got struck by lightning here in Texas. Whee! There goes the windmill, man.
That was hysterical.
Whee! I mean, and yet Pete's going to tell us that's going to save you. You just need 600 more of those and we'll be fine. And of course, I guarantee you, Pete, Joe, Kamala, all those people, even your Governor Greg Abbott, the electricity goes first to him and then everybody else filters down. But it's just, we had to, instead of, and honestly, build 3 nuclear plants. I don't know how you say it, nuclear C or whatever. Put one outside of DFW, put one outside of Houston, put one outside El Paso. Boom. You will never have energy issues in this state again. Ever. And they can have as much building and then the rest of the energy can be pushed out as they want. That was the solution, not these absolute farce of an electrical generator. Now, windmills, solar panels, stuff like that, that is fine if you want a homestead, if you want to go off grid yourself and you want to build something like Thomas Massey. Massey lives off of like a used Tesla battery and he runs his whole house like that. Senator Representative Thomas Massey. I've always been in favor of people, if you want to run your house off of windmills and battery or hydro and propane, you want to do that, I think that's awesome. I think you should definitely do that to make yourself more secure and not rely on the grid. But those windmills, solar, they're not built for wide distribution of energy. They never have been. And you were sold a bill of goods. If you see those fields of solar panels, they're not doing anything. They're not generating the amount of power necessary to run cities. You cannot do it.
No, exactly right. And I'm sorry for the delay.
No, I don't know. I can rant on this for hours, obviously, so don't you worry about that. I just didn't want to keep cutting you off. But the idea is that as they continue to say, well, it's the hottest weather ever on record. Of course, they always manipulate when the records were taken, you know, or how far back are they going? Are they adjusting for the models? And they're all models. They're all models that are unscientific, and these models they use are purposely created to generate a specific outcome, i.e. the world is going to end or the world is going to blow up or we're all going to die of climate change. Guess what? Warmer weather is actually good for the human race because you can grow more food.
You can't grow in the winter.
Yeah, wait until you hit the solar cycle in the next 5 to 10 years when you're outside of the I don't know, the grand solar maximum. You might know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Once you're in the minimum and you're not getting as much sun, then you're going to be like, yeah, these windmills and these solar panels are not the best things.
Well, and this is what I was looking for. I got it. Like I got it on my phone. I'll send it to people when they ask me. So, how do you know this? Like, this came from their website, and I don't have it saved on the computer. I should have, but this was bringing up again all the time. The positives from the WEF website. The pause during lockdown created the pandemic resulted in 7% decrease in global emissions in 2020. That was an experiment translation. The UN states that we need to decrease 7.6 every year until 2030 to avoid climate and ecological disaster. This means we need to maintain the same decrease every year as if we're living in lockdown.
Yep. Lockdowns are they love lockdowns. Lockdowns are great for the environment. You know, we were seeing pictures of New York City, of Hong Kong, of all these major cities, and they were like, look at the smog of people. And then the middle of lockdown, how everything was clean and everybody could see. Oh, it's the first time you can see Mount Kilimanjaro in 20 years from this section of Japan. It's all right. Yeah, we get it. We get what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Human beings are the cancer to the planet, and that you guys all flying your private jets in your multi-billion-dollar homes and sailing on your boats like Greta. You obviously are the children of Gaia. And you guys are going to make sure that Gaia is healthy.
Earthism.
It's Earthism, 100%.
Dying from the heat 100%. Because of a climate-related extreme weather.
But we're not going to cut emissions until 2030. In the meantime, they need energy to cool their homes and to heat their homes in the meantime.
Right, and as you know, I mean, the other thing that's striking is I've noticed some naysayers in the U.S. speaking as if the only power sources that exist are solar, wind, and hydrocarbon. Obviously, in Europe, they have a mix that relies partly on nuclear. We have more options that are being developed in the U.S., as well as being smarter and more efficient with the energy that we have. Energy efficiency has often been described as the fifth fuel. And in the transportation side of things, finding less carbon-intensive ways to move our vehicles. Obviously, the leading and most visible example of that's electric vehicles. It's why we're fighting to make EVs cheaper. And it's why we're getting these charging stations out across the country. But I've never known the United States to be a country that looks around the world and says, what's the lowest common denominator? Let's do that. Or we don't have control over every piece of it, so let's sit back, accept the status quo, and let some other country lead. That's not what America does. And I think what you're going to see from the president today is an insistence that America should be leading the way and challenging the rest of the world to catch up to us instead of matching some other country that isn't doing a very good job.
There's more
astonished that some folks, and I felt this, I was testifying in Congress yesterday, some folks seem to really struggle to let go of the status quo.
Secretary Pete Buttigieg begging for electric car subsidies before a House committee. Watch this.
Of course, the more pain we are all experiencing from the high price of gas, the more benefit there is for those who can access electric vehicles.
The more pain, the more benefit. That was met with fierce opposition from Republicans.
You'll laugh at this. I had they interviewed somebody on Fox the other day, and he was some kind of financial guru, and he talks about how tough it is for him and his family. And he mentions having 3 cars, one a big Suburban, another one just a regular old like BMW, and another one's an EV car. And he mentions, hey, we're lucky enough to have a charger in our house. I'm going, this might not have been the best guy to have on your interview. You should have just pulled out Joe Schmo for those walking down the sidewalk and bring him in to talk about this. Not this guy who has multiple cars, has his EV charger in his house. Is like, yeah, we're struggling.
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
The
My heart
real
bleeds for
cost
you.
of EVs.
If that average household plugged in electric cars, do you know how much more electricity they would use in comparison to the air conditioning that air conditions their whole house? It would take 4 times as much electricity to charge the average household's cars as the average household uses on air conditioning.
Never thought about it that way. Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massey joins us right now. Congressman, good morning to you.
Hey, Steve, good morning.
So there he was saying, hey, we need more money for subsidies to the tune of $12,500 per car to get people to buy them because they're feeling a lot of pain and blah, blah, blah. But you brought up the really good point. We don't have the infrastructure right now to actually handle as many cars as the Biden administration wants to see. They want to see half of America's fleet electric.
And that's actually, they don't care about that. I talked about this many times about the reset. That whole idea of not owning anything, that's including the car. They don't want you to have, and it's written in his books, and I got it right here. It talks about no more garages, no more this. You don't have a car. That's Uber and Lyft for you, except on the AI. When I was doing Uber, they were already having fleets of AI cars in Tucson, Arizona. Oh, yeah, this thing was all the worst. They even talked about ones that could hover, a hovercraft type deal, because I was joking, get to the chopper. So what you do, you hit the app and it comes to you. So again, it goes back to, and then maybe you're not allowed to, you don't have the credit score when you hit your app, like we've seen in that Chinese video. It just, you're not getting on that train today. You're not going to get in that car that's taking you because a robot's taking you. They don't care about you not affording the cars because they don't want you to afford the cars. They don't want you to have the cars. You're not supposed to travel. Hence why everyone was getting used to working at home. I love working at home. And that was a good thing. You're around your family, things like that. There's a lot of positives from that. But the agenda on this is a lot uglier than what they're trying. They're not looking for virtue. They're looking to control you. And again, in the book I talk about with the Father Carney, he brings up slavery. You're going to be a slave to the state.
Yep, that's their end goal. Yep.
The end of this decade.
Yeah, by 2030, Biden wants 50% of all cars to be electric, and he signed an executive order. The problem is, you're going to have rolling blackouts, you're going to have brownouts, you're going to have to decide whether to turn on your air conditioner in your house or whether to drive your car that day. That's the reality of it. And, I drive an electric car. I've had an electric car for 10 years. I've had solar panels on my house. I love this stuff, but the problem is you can't force people into this too quickly or it's all going to break.
And in fact, that's where we're at right now. There are a lot of people who would like to buy electric cars, but first of all, they don't have chips to make them. They don't have the rare earths to make the battery. They might have an...
Which is poisonous. They're up here in just on the other side of the interstate. I can't remember what, Dallas, North Carolina. They got a lithium thing they're building up down here. When we get our raw milk across the border in South Carolina, they're trying to do quartz down there. They're trying to dig up these poisons, which is poison for the human. And you look it up to have your car go down there on a battery. And we've seen how that doesn't work right now.
Also, there was a story, I think it was out of the Western Journal, where this family bought their 16, 17-year-old daughter a 2014 Ford Focus electric car. Mm-hmm. And it was $11,000. And she was like, yeah, because you're a little girl. It's like, yeah, I'm doing my thing to help the planet. And it's such a cute little car and it's quiet. 6 months, not even 6 months later, the car wouldn't start because all the batteries were dead because it was a used electric car. So they took it back to the Auto Nation, and the Auto Nation was like, yeah, it's going to be $14,000 to replace all the batteries. And they're like, no, the car cost $11,000. They're like, yeah, that's cute. It's $14,000 to replace the batteries. And the story gets better because then the dad's like, all right, fine. We'll sell it back to the same dealership that bought the car. Hey, how much would you give us on a trade-in? They're like, yeah, we'll give you $500. It's just like, folks, stay away from used electric vehicles. It's like you wouldn't buy a used cell phone. I mean, some of you people are crazy enough that you would. But if you buy it, you buy a used cell phone, the thing's not going to work it's a short-term buy. These batteries, they're on superchargers, which means it burn out the battery. And it's, the amount of money to replace it. Oh, and the part of the story is he was like, all right, we'll do the batteries. Let's order them. They're like, yeah, we can't get the batteries. We can't get them. So, the car sat there for almost 2 months.
And this is the global version, the kill switch.
Yeah.
They got it. It's in the works. It's in the infrastructure bill. Now, you think what Rick is talking about is, oh man, that sucks. Imagine that for everybody.
Yeah.
The kill switch in your car is going to be 2026 with all new cars. And it Clash for Clunkers. What did Clash for Clunkers do for Obama? Got rid of all the old cars, all the scraps. You can't use those parts anymore. All the stuff is new. You can't. Yeah, and they've been building this structure for years and years and years, and we're behind the eight ball. Some of us are starting to look around going, hey, maybe this water's getting a little boily right now.
Yeah, man. Why are my feet warm?
Yeah.
Why are my feet getting warm?
A used electric car that needs a new battery, the battery costs more than the actual car. So it's like, it's great. It's a great idea, but they haven't figured out all the bugs yet.
They never will.
The supply chain issues are going to exacerbate that. Another comparison, I know a lot of parents, when they see their kids at the refrigerator door just standing there with the door open, they get nervous about their electric bill. An electric car uses 25 times as much as a refrigerator. Can you imagine a Little League team in your house with 25 refrigerators fanning the door?
That is such a great point, Congress.
There's a better point on that. You're not going to have Little League.
No.
There's no travel teams anymore. You're not going to see colleges going to travel all over the place. If you like college football and NFL and baseball and all that, that's gone. They're not going to let you do. I mean, the 2030 PDF that UK has, no more flying.
No more.
What do you think these guys are going to do? They just chart to go to the All-Star game. They fly out to the All-Star game. You think they're going to have an electric car and take somebody from Boston to LA? That's over with.
The thing that Massey, and he's not mistaking this for any other reason, but it's not, when you get an electric car, you're not plugging it into your wall outlet. You got to spend a couple $1,000s to get a special charger fitted to your house.
That takes forever.
Just the special charger is about 8 hours. You can get a supercharger, that's $50,000. you can put a supercharger in your house and put your burning the battery in. But
I saw a link that talked about the Netherlands are having a solar power van. First off, it's only a 2-seater. It's got a nice little dining room table in it, nice, cute. So the family's not involved in this, and it looks like it works pretty good, like 700 kilometers on the thing, and you got the charging, so that's good. But what happens when the sun doesn't work? I got 3 solar power bug zappers in the backyard because I don't want to charge them up. I don't want to put the battery in it. It's just like I found it was a good deal. It was like $20 for these things, and they work. But they only work if they get charged by that big yellow thing up there. If it's a rainy day, guess what doesn't happen? They don't charge.
The ironic thing is on a rainy day, you get more bugs too.
Yeah.
I mean, because particularly today where it's 100 degrees across much of the country, you know, people are thinking about what's my electric bill going to be. But at the same time, it's like, okay, if I've got my air conditioner on, I've got the refrigerator plugged in and my car plugged in, you know, I'm going to blow out the power plant.
Yeah, you're going to blow out your neighborhood power grid. You're going to blow
out your
neighborhoods do that. The whole grid will go down. So it's just not going to work. I told Secretary Buttigieg, I said, look, you're optimistic, and I like that, but you don't have any calculations. This is all based on political science, not engineering.
Oh, that's such a good point. And you are an engineer yourself, and you've got solar panels, you've got the electric car. You would like it to work, but it just doesn't at this point. And the other thing is, for all the people who are pushing electric vehicles, Congressman, how many of them realize that the electricity is generated by fossil fuels?
You got a video of that.
You know, I have friends of coal license plates on my electric car. And when I drive to D.C., it takes 2.5 hours longer to get here from Kentucky because I have to stop 3 times to charge.
Well, that's if you can find a charger. And that's right. The Biden administration would like to see at least one charger every 50 miles. Let's see how that turns out.
Here's Ireland.
Radical reductions. We need 10% per annum, she's looking for now. So if I had my way, if there was a one-world dictatorship where we could make that level of ambition and deliver it, then I'd be very happy.
Battery in this particular design is a T-shape right down the center and across the back seat area. Because everybody thought we killed the electric vehicle. No, we didn't. It's alive and well.
So what's charging the batteries right now? What's the source of
well, here, it's coming from the building.
I mean, is it what's our mix of power?
Oh, actually, Lansing feeds the building.
What's that?
Lansing feeds power to the building. So I don't know.
They're
wait for it.
That's a bit of coal. Well, they're heavy on natural gas, aren't they?
Right now, the car is charging off of your grid.
Right. It would be charging off our grid, which is about 95% coal.
Here's CNN. You probably all see.
They're going to latch onto it. They've already announced in our office that once the public will be open to it, we're going to start focusing mainly on climate, climate like global warming, and like that's going to be our next I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be our focus. Our focus was to get Trump out of office, right? Without saying it, that's what it was, right? So our next thing is going to be climate change awareness.
What does that look like?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I have a feeling it's just going to be constantly showing videos of decline and ice and weather warming up and the effects it's having on the economy and really talking
Besides that?
The head of the network,
Who's that? Is that Zucker?
Zucker, yeah. I imagine that he's got his council and they've all discussed where they think
So that's the next
pandemic story that will be to death. But that one's got longevity. You know what I mean? It's not there's a definitive ending to the pandemic, or it'll taper off to a point that it's not a problem anymore. Problem I think is going to take years, so they'll probably be able to milk that for quite a bit.
So climate change overload.
Be prepared. It's coming. Stories like right now, we had an inside track right now where 2 stories are going to be pushed. Climate change is going to be the next COVID thing, just so you know. We're gonna hone in. Focus on that. I love it. But that's a fair thing. But the mix of that is a network.
And there's other things right here. I mean, check this out.
Yep.
Check this out. This is blocking the sun.
The Mr. Burns plan.
This was on the WEF TikTok channel a month ago.
WEF TikTok.
Space bubbles.
Space bubble.
Decarbonizing life. Now, if you ever taken biology or chemistry, what is it? And that what would be plantology? What is zoology? What is theology?
It's the thingy. It's the science. It's the science.
Just biology. You know the thing.
It's the thing.
Plants need carbon. So if you get rid of zero, if you do zero carbon, these things are dead.
Yeah.
So they would form a raft about the size of Brazil. Hey, what's that G word there?
Geoengineering.
It's almost like that whole idea of chemtrails.
Or, controlling the weather, creating
stuff. Yeah, I mean, Australia, I don't know if you've seen that. I played it on Cloud Planet. They're having floods in a certain area because they were seeding the clouds, which means they were putting stuff in the clouds to make the rain come out, more rain come out of the clouds. They're flooding. Yep. Maybe we shouldn't mess with nature. I'll just call me crazy.
Yeah.
Like what? The chemtrails?
This is their plan, people.
You think?
Hey, there's one guy in the back that's like, maybe it's a bad idea.
Yeah, they threw him out of the building.
He's right.
Pope Francis, protecting God's creation is not optional for Christians. He's out there talking about basically earthism right now. Sadly, the Holy Father's involved in it. If you read the books by Patrick Wood, Technocracy, and the New World Order, and the other one he has, he talks about going. He even brings up this is back in 2018. Just the worship of the earth. He doesn't bring up earthism as the name. That's another guy that's in the book. Ian Davis, I think his name is. In the book Pseudo Pandemic, he brings it up. He calls it earthism. Anyway, it is a religion. The present day state of decay in our common home merits the same attention as other global challenges, such as grave health crisis and wars. Living our vocation, be protectors of God's handiwork, which is a good thing, is essential to a life of virtue. It's not optional or a secondary aspect of our Christian experience. Climate change.
We are charged to take care of the land, but that doesn't mean like following Klaus Schwab's opinion of it.
Yeah, and they're part of it. What's his face that's with him? Turkson. He's a straight up communist. As a friend of mine that's a big economist says, and they're all WEF guys. They're in it. That sadly, they're all in. Our own guys are in on it, which is very frustrating.
Yeah.
Vatican Cardinal backs fossil fuel neo-proliferation treaty. This was yesterday, July 21st, 2022. Top Cardinal has endorsed calls for a fossil fuels non-proliferation treaty. Exploratory production must be phased out to prevent global temperatures from rising to a precipice. Cardinal Michael Sersney, a Canadian Jesuit, go figure.
Yeah, that's a double whammy. A Canadian Jesuit.
Made the comments while presenting Francis's annual message about caring for God's creation. In the message, Francis repeated his call for an end to industrial extraction practices used in mining, tapping oil and forest. But it's okay if you do lithium? polluting rivers and poisoning foods. So it's okay if you do the other stuff, not okay if you dig for oil, which is naturally found in the water, not in the ground. It's in the water too. If you have they have a oil spill, the Mother Nature knows how to take that down. It will figure out a way to clean that around there. You know that. Such a treaty was necessary to accompany the 2015 Paris Accords. That was the best thing that Trump did, was get us out of that.
Yeah,
I think that's what got him kicked out, was when he brought that out, when he got rid of that. Yeah. Which seek to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2.7 Fahrenheit this century.
Like,
the planet is 1.2 degrees hotter. Yet fossil fuel projects every day accelerate our race towards the precipice. Enough is enough. All new exploration and production of coal, oil, and gas. We basically ended it in this union, and nothing's changed. How come? Right? I mean, how many? They got rid of the big oil pipeline right when Brandon started. They cut down all the other ones. They basically put a moratorium on all drilling. So how come that hasn't? That we've already done that?
Yep, and we're still suffering. We still have the high heat. We still have the ecological disasters that await us because of climate change, because it is a benchmark that can always be moved. I mean, the joke about the goalpost always being moved. This is the thing, like the kids said from the CNN, this thing can get moved forever, right?
Oh, yeah.
We just didn't do enough this time.
Mm-hmm.
We have to just cut back a little bit more, and then we'll be okay. I don't really care, honestly, because if God wanted to, before I say that, it's always funny when like a volcano blasts off, because they're like, yeah, the amount of carbon that thing just blew out in one afternoon pretty much negated every climate change thing you did for the last 15 years. So that's almost God's sense of humor, being like, yeah, keep doing it, pop. I'll just keep popping these suckers off, and you'll never get to your goal.
These people don't care about it. It's just a ploy. It's all just a takeover. Al Gore flies all over the place. John Rambo Kerry, who served in Vietnam, he flies all over the place. He's actually said he needs to do it. You aren't allowed to do it, but he can do it. It's okay when he does it. They don't care. They want you dead. There's one lady she was at the Vatican last summer. I should put it up, grab that clip. She talks about wanting to get population down to the 1500 level, which is eliminating a lot of billions of people dead. And again, it goes back to what is the WEF. In the book from 1974, it dedicates itself to Malthusian principles. They want population control. It's all about that. Abortion, population control. They're mad that more babies are going to live now. They don't want babies to live because that's more humans, more carbon being that. So that we got to do something about that. Hey, the good old USS of A is trying to codify same-sex marriage. How you like? Hey, where's the Lee Greenwood song? Someone play that out. I'm proud. Are you proud to be an American after that one?
Yep. Hey, at least I know I'm free, right? Right?
Hey, you can skip that part. Yeah, don't sing the anthem and say "Land of the Free and Home of the Brave" when the land of the free is basically you're a slave. And how brave are we when we're just letting it happen?
Yeah, they've replaced one sin that cries out to heaven for vengeance with another. And it's incredible the speed. It's funny, like Roe got taken down and they went, oh man, Congress hasn't been able to do anything. They've been able to pass gun control, and they just passed SSM in like 3 weeks. It's been the most productive Congress ever after they lost Roe. So yeah, it was a great victory. Don't get me wrong. I am so happy we live I live in a state now where we're trying to save as many babies as possible. It's awesome. But
hey, you see New Hampshire?
Huh?
You see New Hampshire?
What about it?
They came out with a little resolved. We're wanting to leave the union.
Yep. Hey, I love the great state of New Hampshire. I'd love to see them get on out there and do what they got to do. Let them leave. We'll be right. The great Republic of Texas, we'll leave too, man. We'll trade with you. Absolutely.
Politically, I mean, now you don't want to be like Sri Lanka and end up like Abbott, who's a WF guy. If you're in Texas, break away, and then you have Abbott there, who's nothing's going to change if you do that. You got to get rid of people like that and put people with that isn't obviously a carbon Nazi. You got to get somebody with actually sense in office. Maybe yourself. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there would be a Texas that would be feared. That would make Putin look like a China doll. if you put me in that executive office. I tell you
Well,
that much.
Y'all did that last week. You guys did a bunch of rallies to do consecration of the Sacred Heart.
Yep.
Garcia Gabriel Moreno in Ecuador did that in Ecuador. That's that image, but you can't see it on that screen. That image right there, he had drawn in France when he learned about the Sacred Heart of Mary, Sister Mary Margaret Alacoque, Saint Mary Margaret Alacoque, and found out about the 100 years to the day when the kings did not do it, and they ended up guillotining him in the French Revolution. He was so terrified of that, he had that printed off. The rays is going on. The rays is coming from his heart onto Ecuador, and he consecrated Ecuador to the Sacred Heart. Ended the wars, ended the debt, brought peace to the brain, built the roads. I know who built the roads. He built the roads. And I know they end up killing him after his third term. That might happen, but we're gonna need some Garcia Morenos. And Leo XIII called it the epitome of a Catholic government. Pius IX and him were always riding each other. He brought the Dominicans in, the Redemptorists in, all these teaching orders that come in. The places down there are beautiful. It's 98% Catholic, baptized. They all fallen away now. So they're baptized, but we need to get the faith back up. But there's examples of this working.
We had Fort Worth, Dallas, Waco, and Houston and Tyler. We had them all happen in there. So it all happened.
Y'all were thinking locally and acting locally.
Yeah, and that's great. We're having another one, big rally in August 6th. It's not with these guys. It's another group that's doing a Rosary rally in Austin. So I think everybody's going to go to Austin for that one on the 6th. So hey, we'll I would love to see Texas be consecrated to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and that would be fantastic. It would be great. It would just be the best. It would just be absolutely the best.
Hungary's still got it. Ireland still has it in the constitution. They're just not living in it. But Hungary put a new constitution in. Chris Ferrara writes about that in Liberty to God That Failed, and has his interviews. Because the lefties were ticked off, saying this was offensive, and his great answer was, "The who? Satan? Of course it was."
And that doesn't really matter to me that you're offended. I really don't care. So
here, speaking of Canada, let's here's this lady.
Compel you to perform a live can. If you refuse to do it, that is your choice. I'm not going to sit here and try to strong arm you or convince you. Current policy, though, is that we are supposed to issue you a quarantine order at that point. So that's what I'm going to have to do then today. So,
but I'm vaccinated. Isn't that just for unvaccinated?
Well, it comes down to this is what I have to do as a screening officer. I don't have the ability to make that decision.
Just obeying orders.
Touch with public health.
Just doing my job.
If you choose to, I also can't force you to do that.
Sorry, sir, I don't mean to interject, but you're saying that you're acting as a screening officer. So are you employed by the Public Health Agency of Canada?
No, I'm employed by the Canada Border Service Agency. CBSA Border Service officers are also classified as screening officers under the Quarantine Act.
Okay, so why is CBSA being forced to do PHAC's dirty work?
That's a question about my pay grade, sir. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just following orders.
Just following orders.
So in any case, though, had to put you into quarantine. So this is the information for that. That's your public health or your vaccination info, passport, and 2 test kits. So that's all that for you, and you're basically all set on our end.
So what if I don't do this? Because I have been 2.5 years and isolated for 2 years. I'm not going to isolate again.
Okay.
So
I can certainly appreciate the frustration over the pandemic. Once again, that's a public health issue, not a CBSA issue. So we have zero follow-up or enforcement on our end.
Following orders.
It goes to public health, and they have an enforcement compliance division where they handle all that stuff, which they do whatever it is that they do. I don't talk to them. I don't work with them.
Looks like she just went to the dentist.
Yeah.
Here's your toothbrush.
I don't know what she says afterwards, but just this came out the 20th of July. Home Secretary announces plans for contactless digital border. Think about that one next time. I mean, contactless digital border. You're not going to just like digital currency.
Guess what? We're trying that down south in Texas right now. It's not working too well. There's a lot of contact on the border. There's a lot of contact on the southern border, right? On Texas's border, not the southern border. I know Steve doesn't like that saying.
Let me see if I pull up. That was the wrong button. Get the Schwab here, because there was somebody posted it. I've seen it many times, but it mentioned the highlight of it was, this is not a conspiracy theory. You can laugh at it all you want. This is literally what's going on right now.
Also to the leadership of China
in terms of fighting the pandemic, in terms of reinvigorating its economy. We have now a window of opportunity to create this global reset which we all need. This global reset is necessary because we have seen that our policies which we pursued before the coronavirus struck us, that those policies do not create the necessary inclusion of society necessary for harmonious societal development. And they do not create the sustainability of what we are doing. Just think of the global warming, how fast it is developing in the opposite, into the negative direction. So we have a great opportunity at this moment, like we had after World War II, to have in some way a new beginning in our global cooperation, in globalization, in managing our global affairs.
Like a new world order?
I hope that we will not miss this opportunity.
Yeah, don't miss this opportunity. Guess what they're doing? They're not missing this opportunity.
Nope, not at all. They are going to take full advantage of it because this is what the whole coronavirus was for. The whole Rona was for this, to reset the deck for them. And they had to do it. And they got their pieces in place. And yeah, you have the Netherlands and the Italians, and they're all pushing back, and that's great. Good for them. You know, Viva, keep fighting. But just hope you don't end up like the Sri Lankans, swapping out one for another.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We don't have anybody running. We got a few people running, but they're all running for DC still. There's that one guy, is a Catholic guy in Michigan. He's running for Congress up there for the state, for the federal. Yep. You got to start thinking about breaking off this thing. That's the only way you're going to politically do it. Break it off.
Well, I mean, you saw it the other day. Somebody was on my Twitter feed talking about Trump DeSantis and how Trump DeSantis is going to be the ticket. First of all, Article 12, look at, not Article 12th Amendment, look it up, you dummies. They can't have two people from the same state run. B, Florida should be doing everything it can to change its current constitution to keep DeSantis in office as long as possible.
Yep.
That's what they should. They should be. Florida should literally be banishing the term limits to governor and being like, DeSantis, you can stay as long as you feel you want to.
Yeah, give him life term.
We'll give him a life term, right? Make that possible. And then that's what that needs to be. You got a guy there who's not perfect, but he's in this. He is the shining knight at this point. And so you got to hold on to him. Instead, people are whispering, "Oh, you got to go to D.C. That's where." No, it's not. D.C. You know what I mean? Let Trump. I mean, if we're going to be in the system, let Trump go back there. Let him go mess around in D.C. for 4 more years. That's what you want. Send the bull back into the China shop and let him have fun. If nothing else, he'll grind it to a halt for 4 years. That's what you know what I mean?
Maybe we'll get the lefties to break up.
Right? Maybe. Yeah, like the West Coast will leave and all these others. But the idea, you're right, Steve. Everybody wants that, those cushy federal royalty spots. The royalty that comes with being a senator, even though you don't do nothing. You know, oh, look at the honorable senator from California, the honorable senator from Rhode Island. They're not honorable. Sheldon Whitehouse is not honorable. You know, whoever Dianne Feinstein is not honorable. Hell, Ted Cruz and John Cornyn are not honorable. The ones from my state. They're just people.
What did what's his face just get done talking about? He has an EV car. Why does he have an EV car? Because he can afford it.
Yeah, I think they actually. Yeah, first of all, he gets paid $175,000 a year. B, I think they get a stipend. We did it that time when the lady was like, "I just drive my electric car and I just drive by all the gas station." It's like, yeah, because you get a stipend for an electric car. So
yep. They're not regular people. If they were going up there for nothing or peanuts, that's one thing. You have some virtue or the run for it, like the Cincinnatus maybe, but not these guys. They're making 6 figs easily. I think Pelosi's husband, he's got insider information on things. She's writing the bills and he's making money, and she goes out there and says, "No, I never said anything." Anybody that believes that, Pass the hookah pipe. You're smoking something good.
Well, Sheldon Whitehouse was the same thing. Sheldon Whitehouse talks about dark money, but yeah, he made all his money on insider trading. So they all do. They all do. And it's an absolute disgusting, gross, gross thing.
I'm telling you, though, if you're sitting here going, why does it have to do anything Catholic? You're not going to go to Mass in the not so distant future, along with not being able to eat in the not so distant future. If we don't figure this thing out and fight back against this somehow, we got to get our heads together, unite on this, and work together on it. We have too many egos out there doing this. We need to really get together on this. This is serious. They're going after your livelihoods. Maybe this winter, like I said, maybe your heater's not working as well. Probably next year your AC is not going to be going down. You think that Honolulu's just one thing? That's an experiment.
That's a test case.
Germany's being experimented on right now. Australia, they're doing. Ireland, they have, was it 50 or 60 banks just went digital currency.
In China, they have tanks in front of certain banks because they're like, yep, they're all investment funds now.
Yep.
You have no access to your money. It's all investments. So
And just because you got the money in the bank doesn't mean that's yours.
Yeah.
You loaned it to them. They don't have to give it all back to you unless you take it out now. Not saying that you should go do that.
There's
so
would argue,
many variables.
I'm not a financial advisor. Some people would argue that it'd be stupid to have anything above what you pay your bills with every month in a bank. Like I said, don't take financial advice from me. But I mean, they've shown in the past, and they've shown in other places that and Pelosi has talked about it, AOC has talked about it. They've all talked about ways of getting your money somehow, either start moving 401ks into government IRS or government whatever retirement funds, which is just another Social Security that they can break the bank to use for other stuff. So
I guess the final wrap up, we talked about the DC going after the trad mass. There's a 7-page article by the Bishop Wilton Gregory ending the mass up there, and I think the sacraments too. You can't get baptism in the gigantic, and I'm being sarcastic, archdiocese of DC, which probably shouldn't exist. It probably should be logged into Baltimore or Arlington, and we forget about it because it's the capital of this. Yeah, it's the clean one. By the way, he goes after the mass, but if you kill babies, you're okay up there.
You can still receive the body and blood of our Lord and Savior if you're murdering babies. But if you wanna do some Gregorian chants, you better go find somewhere else to do that, sucker.
Now you can't go across the border in Arlington. Yeah, there's some places down there in the diocese there, but that's the hot topic of that one was Gregory doing this. Hey, wait, what do you do? Okay, I like Jocko's video. Good, it's titled "Good." Hey, this thing happened to you. Something bad happened to you. Good. This thing happened to you. Good. You got this happen. Good. Because you lost. Just like in sports or anything. What does it do if you got cut from a team? Good. You're like, what? It makes you try harder, makes you refocus, get your mind ready. All right, they just banned the mass in DC. Okay, it stinks. I'm sorry for the people up there. All right, what do you do about it? You can drive across. You can educate the out of everybody in that area. Get them hooked on what's going on and why this was taken out, things like that. Start converting the mind, going after the ideas. Start planting seeds instead of complaining on Twitter and yelling about this guy stinks, this guy stinks, this guy stinks. Start putting solutions up. Let's do this. Like you guys did in Texas. Let's get some rallies together. Y'all didn't go up there and start complaining on Twitter. You got some group together and you start doing something about it. Maybe there's some fruits down the road.
I will say this. I was told by a priest friend of mine, really good friend of mine, TAC44. That's our code for him. That's my little code for him. He said, talking about masses getting shut down, doesn't hurt to have an extra couple bottles of red wine, 12% by alcohol in your house. Or go into the church websites, the church, I don't know what they're called, but getting just the bread that can be consecrated. As a prepper, if you're a Catholic prepper, it may not hurt to have a couple half a dozen bottles of red wine and a couple bags of bread in your house in case you want to be like, hey, if you can't do masses in DC, but you have a priest that still because I think in that it said you could do private masses. Mm-hmm. You could petition to do private masses. Maybe you could have private masses in somebody's garage in the area and try to go underground, catacombs, dude. Go catacombs.
A priest friend of mine who's Ukrainian here mentioned to me, he's from England, but he's Ukrainian, right? Comes up to me, this is about a year ago. He goes, my priest friends do not understand what's coming down. He tells everybody, you make sure you have an altar at your house, just in case something like this goes down, you can have us coming over. And most of them are going, like I said, oh, this is nothing, not a big, this is a bunch of hogwash. That's why I like putting the links up. Go ahead. I put the links up. How Lulu's doing that. That's what they're doing in the United Kingdom. They're coming after they're coming after you. You are the carbon they want to eliminate. So you got to have a backup plan. Start thinking now. You got a couple of years before it really starts getting bad. You're going to see all this come down in the next couple of years. It's already starting to come down fast. When he gets this EO next week, watch what comes after that.
Nothing comes out of nowhere. I know it's a weird way for me to say it. There's no such thing as a surprise. Everything has groundwork laid on it. Everything's been tested. They don't just try something mass scale like COVID if they didn't think it was going to work. They had to have the right pieces in place. Dr. Brinks had an article. There was a bunch of articles this week from Dr. Brinks in her new book when she just said, when they said no lockdowns, I just took it from the first bullet point and I made it the fifth bullet point and I kept resubmitting it. And then I did the phone calls with the governors and I told them to look at the fifth bullet points, fifth, sixth. And she is admitting that she enacted treasonous activity against the president of the United States and she got a book deal out of it. Yep. She got a book deal out of it. So when you think there's like any kind of justice, secular justice coming down, divine justice will take care of this in the end. Divine justice will take care of Dr. Brinks, Dr. Fauci, all these people.
And he's retiring.
Right? Yeah.
You didn't see, I don't know if you saw that. The science is retiring.
Oh, and he pretty much told you what everybody knows is that Joe's only got one term in him. He's like, I'm at the end of Joe's term. And they're like, what do you mean, in 8 years? He's like, at the end of his term.
He's got cancer, or now he's got the Rona. He's like, we don't know. We got to go to Brandonville to see what's going on.
Once he loses his sense of smell, Steve, I think he'll step down. That'll be the end for him. If he can't smell things, I think Joe's gonna have to retire.
Let me play the world protest video. It's supposed to do it tomorrow. Now, you probably heard me before say Catholics are not supposed. Or Garvin J. right there. We don't protest. We don't do this. We can do like Crisperos, go in the street and put the cross up and banners and things like that, marching unison, singing, saying rosaries, such as that. Yes, maybe not the violent. We're definitely not calling for the violent protest or anything like this. But these guys are at least getting up. I know people in the United Kingdom that went to those lockdown rallies, and they had a bunch of Catholics there with banners. Guadalupe, if you see some of the videos, you'll see Guadalupe banners around there. They're saying rosaries. They had mass beforehand and after. Some of the guys in Europe are serious about what's going on. We're not there yet.
I believe then that nonviolence is the universal answer to injustice and oppression.
Very definitely. Very definitely. I feel that nonviolence, organized nonviolent resistance is the most powerful weapon that oppressed people can use in breaking loose from the bondage of oppression. Nonviolent resistance does resist. It is dynamically active. It is passive physically, but it is strongly active spiritually. I admire freedom fighters wherever they are.
Enough is enough. We're going Dutch.
The reason why the Dutch, because of the Dutch farmers. So everyone's becoming that Germany. Germans went on the border of the Netherlands and them, and they stopped everything coming in. But I mean, and they're also, we talked about last time, they're at least doing locally. The local farmers are growing things. So we got people doing it. We're just not doing it here yet. I guess we just got to get pummeled.
That doesn't mean, guys, you should, we're not telling you to fall in despair. Every time we do these shows, when Steve says think locally, act locally, he's just telling you, start. It doesn't have to be 55 people. It can be you and 2 neighbors starting up, growing things. And you know what I mean? It doesn't, people always we always want to go, and we'll wrap it up. People want to go from 0 to 100. Oh, we got to have a mass network of people. Why don't you have like 4 people in your neighborhood that you work with? Maybe there's a local butcher that you need to reach out and make an acquaintance with. There's a lady who grows chickens. There's this, there's that. You're a guy who reloads brass. I mean, there's, the first step is finding out what people can do. And then the second, do not feel like you're not, if you don't have a mass protest or if you don't have a huge farmer's market, you're out of the game. You're not. You just have to start. That's the whole point, is you got to start. You cannot wake up and have the ultimate prepping community with an interlock network that's 5 levels of redundancy. You got to take the first step. And that's really what it is. All right, I think we're done for tonight for this skeleton edition of News from the Pew on this Friday night. I want to thank Steve for hanging out with me. I want to thank you for hanging out with me. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Spread the news from the pew. And now, always and forever, Viva Cristo Rey.